All right, calm down. Let's get this registered done so we can crack on. Antonio,
Yep.
Kirkland,
Yeah.
Ryder,
Oi.
Gardner,
Yep.
Taylor,
Aye, man.
Semedo,
Sim.
Lines,
All right, my lover.
Jesus, Medine.
Aye, man. I'm here, man.
All right, lad, all right, we've heard you, we know you're there.
I'm here,
Calm
man.
down. Maguire,
Aye.
JJ,
Yeah, man.
O'Grady,
Yep.
Rodri,
Si.
Lara,
Si.
McCabe,
Aye, man.
Peddick,
Da.
Mare.
Meh.
No, Mare.
Meh.
No, I'm not making the noise of a sheep. Mare.
Yes, boss.
There you are, son. Lee,
Yep.
Bothroyd,
Yeah.
Jones.
Jones.
Jesus, I gone missing again. Go find him, Wilco. Bywater.
All
Alright then, son. You had the tablets there, lad. Good lad, calm down. So, before we start training, we're going to have a listen to the Wednesday week podcast. These guys really know the stuff, apart from that Fudge fella, but don't listen to it. But the rest of them, spot on. So, sit yourselves down and have a listen to this. You just, Gary, will you just
Yes,
press
boss.
play on the machine for me, please?
Hey, boss. Yes, boss. I will, boss. Aye,
No,
man.
no, play,
Aye, man.
Gary.
Of course I will, man. Yeah, man.
Jesus, Gary, how
Oh,
can
man.
you miss
Yeah,
that?
man.
Just
Missed it,
press
man.
play.
Oh, there you go, boss.
There's a chance here, a great save by Turner from McClare. Mike Hunt, a terrific goal by Sheridan.
Brexman against Jones. Get in.
You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble with saving that.
Okay, welcome once again to the Wednesday Week podcast. My name's Fudge, and once again we've got apologies, and I'm sorry to say, from too much lording. He's probably laid up for being such a lord. Lord H is not with us again, so I'm afraid you're stuck with me and the unimitable Mr. Steve B. Are you there, Beastie?
Hey, mate. He actually is the only person I know that does less lauding than Chris Eubank. You know, Chris Eubank's one of them that bought one of them cheap lordship thingies, isn't he? And I think Lord H is the only one that does less than him.
Well, my question is, if he's not lauding, what is he doing?
Exactly.
He surely hasn't got anything better to do than either laud or podcast. I can't think of what else.
Well, the life of a lord is, let's be honest, a really, really easy life.
It's
So,
life, isn't it? Let's be honest.
yeah. To be fair, the only person that has it easier than a lord is his wife. And as we all know, she's done absolutely nothing for ages. He's been running around doing it all for her.
So anyway, Eddie, welcome to the conversation. There you are. I heard you there, mate. Are you all right, brother?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. I've been, for me, unusually, I know you're a globetrotter, you're a man of Europe, we've discussed this at length, Fudgy, but today I've been as far afield as Birmingham, which is very unusual for me, so I've been seeing how the other half live.
So Eddie's been to the Midlands, and so did we this weekend. Went up to Nottingham Forest. Now Nottingham Forest is one of those games that's quite personal to me. This will make you laugh. 2 years ago, one of my good mates, who's a Nottingham Forest fan, we set up a small trophy. It's a lot like the Ashes, but on a smaller scale, and we call it the bragging rights. And we set it up 2 years ago, and this is the first time in 2 years since we've been in the same league since we set it up. Because when we set it up, we got relegated that year. We spent 2 seasons in League One, and so this is the first opportunity I had to get the bragging rights back, and it didn't go well, chaps. I'll not lie to you.
So it's actually just as gripping as the real Ashes, then.
Oh, just as, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The trouble is, though, I can't win. For example, I can't win them back on a. Obviously, they've turned us over at their ground. If we turn them over at Hillsborough, obviously he keeps them. Do you know what I mean? But now they've already got a point on the board. I can't win them back this year. The best I can hope for is a draw. So anyway, Nottingham Forest. I did watch the game on a completely legal stream, of course, and I didn't think it was the dour affair that some of the media outlets told us it was. I thought it was quite entertaining for a 0-0 draw, as it was to start with. Wish I was there for Semedo Day. Beastie, what do you think, sir?
Yeah, well, you're right about it being an entertaining game. Up to half time, I said on the ramble that it might be 0-0 at half time, but it was nowhere near a dull affair. It were end-to-end stuff, and it was just a good game of football. Both sides creating quite a few chances, but both as inept as each other at trying to fight back at net. At times you look at some of the chances, especially that we put in. We put some absolutely belting crosses into that box this time. We've been critical of that in the past, that we haven't been getting enough decent balls into danger areas. Well, we did this time, but we just couldn't finish them off. Right? And you look at some of the chances that we had, and I'm sure I could have tapped a few of them in.
So
yeah, absolutely
could it be that our strikers weren't used to getting these opportunities and they thought, what the bloody hell's this happening?
Yeah, certainly they looked rusty, didn't they? In terms of, I don't think I've seen us, not this season at least. I don't call it dominance, but like I say, it was such an open end-to-end match. I think both teams were creating left, right, and centre, and sometimes it wasn't beautiful flowing football, but there were plenty of balls pinging in and around, and I was amazed that at half time it was 0-0. Because, like I say, we got let off a couple of times. They had some really good chances. Kirkland did his bit there, but also their poor finishing. But yeah, some of the chances that we missed. Mr. Medine, I'm looking at you. That was there was some absolute pearlers there.
Yeah, but one of balls that Bothroyd put in, another one that's had a lot of stick, and I hope he ain't getting any stick this week, because I thought he were probably man at match including both sides in that, not just for Wednesday. I thought he had a cracking game. But one of balls that he put in there, it was absolutely brilliant. And when it just got wasted, he looked at our players at box and he just threw his arms up as if to say, well, what more can I do? You know what I mean? I'm giving you everything that everybody whinges at me for. I'm doing it, and yet still we can't do anything with it. And then moments later, I think Liera did exactly the same. He put a pearl of a ball across, and again, it went wasted.
And don't you think it's funny? It certainly occurred to me, watching it, that after all we'd spoken, and we probably spent 20 minutes talking about this, didn't we, last week, that we're crying out for someone to be in and about it and actually finishing those off. I don't think any of us imagined that we could have that many chances and still come away without putting one of them in back of the net. We thought we had problems. Well, you can square them, because we've got plenty that we need to sort out up front.
There weren't difficult chances though, were they, Eddie? No,
exactly, and that's the worrying thing. A lot of the time when you get teams that are battling down the wrong end of the table, they're not creating enough, and when they do create, it's kind of hope rather than expectation. But they were chances that even last season we'd have had a hatful of goals. That would have been a 5-0 or at least a 5-3. So there's something is rotten in the state of Sheffield Wednesday as far as having that killer instinct, and it's worrying, yeah.
I think this is a testament to the Sheffield Wednesday fans. Again, not normally do I agree with them, with the masses, I must admit, but I think this is the reason why we're not banging the Jones drum out. The Jones out drum, if that's a term. I don't think we've jumped on that bandwagon as a collective just yet. Purely because I think Dave Jones says himself, he's sick of saying it, that we are creating these chances and we're not playing awful. Do you know what I mean? It's not like back in 2000 when we got relegated from the Premier League, where it turned into a comedy of errors week in, week out. There's still some good football there being played. It's just it's down once again to errors from the defence. After keeping their head for 89 minutes, they'll have a moment of madness at some point during the game, or we're just not sticking the ball in the back of the net. We're not being trounced week in, week out. But if you look at our record, it's god awful.
Yeah, but the thing that annoys me about this game is Forest are now in 10th after beating us, and I really do not think they are a good side. It's so frustrating that we've been beaten now by a side in 10th. We've been beaten by sides that are, I think, the 15th and 16th, which is Bolton and Wolves, and none of these sides are good to me. And I find it, frustrating. I can't find a better word than that, because all those three games in particular, I think we should have had something from. And this one at Forest, I know it was end-to-end stuff. I know they had the chances, but at no point did I feel like we were going to lose that game. Even after we put a goal in back at net for them, I still didn't think we were going to lose.
Yeah, the same. And, I think you could tell from, the atmosphere, there wasn't even that kind of resignation like there had been at Borough that, we're putting up a good fight, but probably on balance, we're not good enough to beat this team. And there's frailties there that mean we're likely to concede again. It was almost an irrelevance, the fact that we were 1-0 down. We didn't seem to play any better or worse, and we certainly, the backing for the team was still there. So, I think it's telling that we had that kind of mini turnaround, but look at the teams that we beat, Ipswich and Peterborough. Now, I agree, I don't think Nottingham Forest were a good team. I don't think Bolton were a good team, or Wolves were a good team. But if we can only beat Ipswich and Peterborough, we've got big problems in this division.
I think you're dead right. I think this league is tight. It is the tightest league I've seen in a few years. There's a lot of big clubs in there. You look at the teams that came down from the Premier League. They're not Premier League quality, and the teams that were already in the Championship before we joined it. You could have picked 15 teams that could have ended up in the playoffs before the season started. I just think at the beginning of the season, I genuinely thought we were one of those 15 teams, and it transpires we're not. So it concerns me that we're not at least pushing mid-table. I think judging by the quality of the teams in this league, mid-table wasn't a big ask. But we're playing well. We're not playing badly, sorry. But we're just not getting the rub of the green. Now, is this down to would you just say was more responsible for that? Was it us not putting the ball in the back of the net, or these silly mistakes? Which one would you think needs combating first before we start talking about mid-table?
Well, we started the season off with a poor defence. And even though we were winning, we were letting goals in, so we knew where the problem was. To me, Dave Jones has gone some way to sorting that defence out. Don't get me wrong. If it were me personally, I'd make quite a few changes. Daniel Jones would be on his bike for a start.
Do you know what? I just really said that, James.
Let me just say, first of all, that I thought Daniel Jones had a decent game against Forest, right? Notwithstanding, he's still very poor. But our biggest problem now is up front, because, like I've just said there, we created the chances in this game, but we couldn't put them away, and they weren't difficult chances. Now, we put one or two of them away, and that, especially early on, and that changed the whole complex of the game. To me, Forest didn't really turn up until we put that goal in the back of the net for them. Once we did that, they started to play a little bit, and they started to look more threatening. But until that moment, they weren't at the game.
I'll tell you what I noticed about the game as well. Sean O'Driscoll is renowned for getting his teams to get the ball on the ground, playing passing football, and very patient build-up and very patient play. I didn't see evidence of that on the game on Saturday. I thought Forest looked a bit smash and grab at times. I thought they just desperately wanted to get it forward and get into the back of the net. Forest have made some good signings this season. Signings that if we signed them at Sheffield Wednesday, I'd have been chuffed with. Simon Cox, Billy Sharp, Henri Lansbury. Didn't particularly set the world on fire. What do you reckon?
For me, I think this shows that this division is still a bit of a lucky lottery. It's a very flat division, and I think teams that thrive in this division do so because they get 2 or 3 players who are banging form, and teams that struggle do so because either they've got players who aren't delivering, or they get that bit of bad luck, that bad run of bad things happening. And on that, entire seasons can turn. You look at teams that there are very few teams that just dominate from start to finish, and there are very few teams that are just complete dead weight. And unfortunately for us, I think we've had a bit of a combination of those two negative things, that we've had bad individual moments in games, and we've had players who haven't really been at the races. I don't really think there's an awful lot to choose between us and certainly the teams that are where Nottingham Forest are and higher, because as you both said, on Saturday, there wasn't a lot to choose between them. And if anything, I think we probably shaded the performance, certainly for the first 75 minutes.
Yeah, I think without a doubt we shaded the game overall. I think, I've got to be honest with you now, on Saturday night I were on a right downer. And I don't usually get that bothered when we're losing and we've played well. But for some reason, I just got on a right downer. I walked out of the ground. I walked through car park past a load of Wednesday fans who were milling around, and they were whinging like hell about Dave Jones and that he should sod off and I can't wait for him to be sacked and he needs to take all his bloody stupid players with him. And it started to develop into a really big malaise. But by the time I got to car, I was ready for throwing it all in. And I really think that we played well in that game. But the result, how we lost on the back of, other recent results and fans whinging about it, it just started to seep into me. And these things never tend to last long. Sunday morning I'd had a sleep and I was back on it. But I'm sure there's a lot of Wednesday fans now that aren't able to snap out of it a day later. So it is starting to grind on for a lot of Wednesday fans.
No, I know what you mean, Beastie, because I think on Saturday evening I announced my retirement on Twitter as being gay for Miguel Lara. I think I still am. Yeah, I agree with you, Beast. Like in the past we spoke about, for example, his big air kick against Crystal Palace. At times he's tried to bomb forward with his free kicks and they've not really got off. He had obviously the own goal on Saturday. I still think Miguel Lara can be one of our standout performers in defence, and if it reminds me a lot of Raider Johnson, for example. Whereas he might get you one at one end, but he's going to concede you one at the other. Do you know what I mean? So I'm still just a little bit homosexual.
I've got to
Miguel Lara, just not as much.
I've got to really disagree with you, mate. Look, Liera is a fantastic bloke. He will go down in Wednesday folklore for generations because of last season. And he's been immortalised by Pete McKee in that great painting of him being carried around Hillsborough on the shoulders of Wednesday fans. And I absolutely loved it. I loved being part of that. I loved him being part of this club. But we're now a level up. And as much as I love him, right, it's a bit like it's a bit like taking your dog to the vets. Right, Liera has got to make that trip to the vets. I'm sorry, but well, let's put it another way. It's like when Lee Bullen went. Everybody loved Lee Bullen, but when he went, it was time for him to go.
Yeah,
right?
I felt that about Rob Jones.
Not really.
I thought Rob Jones in League One, decent League One performance.
No,
when he went at the right time for me.
No, Rob Jones needed tying to a lamppost and leaving.
He didn't need to suffer the dignity of a little ejection. No, I see your point there, Beast. Yeah,
no, there were no trip to Dignitas for Rob Jones. It was turn to a lamppost and drive away.
Put him in a sack and throw him in the
Yeah, but with Liera, I know people love him, but we've just got to make that decision now, and I just don't think he's good enough.
So Liera, you've got me doing it now. Liera's booked now he's got too many disciplinary points for the season, and he's out against Leicester City on Saturday because he's been a naughty boy. This means Martin Taylor will probably get a nod. Do you reckon it's time that Taylor? I mean, Taylor was on the BBC Sport website and being interviewed about Sheffield. Starting Sheffield Wednesday, and he says he's been disappointed with it. Do you reckon he'll take his opportunity with both hands? I must admit, I might be a bit excited about it.
He's going to have to be fair, because you kind of look. I know we don't have too many options at the moment. I watched the Millwall Leeds match yesterday, and Mark Beavers looks like a player who is continuing to survive and thrive at Championship level. So. We don't have him now. We've got Taylor, and he's going to have to show that he's more than just a kind of a Darren Purse Mark II. A big lug of a lad who is just going to get done by pace left, right, and centre. And this really is the test for him to prove it. Suddenly, if we get a result out of Leicester City, who, let's be honest, are annihilating teams at the moment, this would be a massive step, just like Bothroyd did, to kind of getting the Wednesday fans back on his side and, showing a real dominant performance is the way to do that. He's not going to do it by any other means. He's got to absolutely battle and scrap and dominate in the air and dominate physically. And if he can do that, then, that's what we've signed him for. We've signed him to be a leader, to be a machine out there. And he hasn't done it so far, but if he's getting his chance, well, this is the time to take it. Because if he doesn't do it now, then I think he can probably, start and end his Sheffield Wednesday career like that.
Well, you know what Wednesday fans are like. Football fans in general, they're quick to judge. Fortunately enough, I'm not like that. Right, I never make a knee-jerk...
Of course not, Beast.
Right.
Danny Jones again.
No, I'm Daniel Jones aside, right? I think you'll find if you listen back, I always
off for years, yeah.
I always thought that Gardner were good, Liera, and many of them really. I give them all a fair crack at whip, right? But I don't really think that we've seen enough of Taylor. He's made a couple of mistakes when he came, but at that Blackburn game, which was the last game that he played, he was arguably man at match, and then he was dropped. Now, if he plays to that standard against Leicester, then we will have no complaints about him. And who knows, this, like Eddie says, Liera's been forced out, Taylor's in. This is his chance. And it's a perfect opportunity for him. He can stand there, repel all borders, and you'll be waving Liera bye-bye back at Van like the rest of us.
He's not got a 90 centre part in Taylor. I don't know if I can wave bye-bye to him just yet.
It is a centre part, and it's just a very, very wide one.
So anyway, Nottingham Forest. Not a great day out in terms of result, but what about a day out for the fans? I mean, you saw the day before the game that everybody in the Grandad who had not got a ticket for that game all of a sudden really wanted to go to this game. This was a game that they wanted to go because we chose it as fans, as Jose Semedo Day. What was the atmosphere like when you were there?
It wasn't just at the ground. We parked up near the train station. We walked up, and it was absolutely fantastic. We got out of the car. We'd made my young'un had made a banner. We'd got his own Semedo masks. There were somebody parked opposite us. They'd got Portuguese flags draped around them. They'd all got their Semedo masks. And as we were walking up the road, and in places it was 6 deep with Wednesday fans, all with Semedo masks, faces painted, balloons. It was just fantastic. It was like Nottingham Mardi Gras. It was just wonderful. And then when we got in ground, Jesus Christ on a bike, it was absolutely fantastic. And when we won toss and we swapped ends and we were singing the Semedo song, and it was just a wall of noise. There were 4,000 Wednesday fans there. I don't know what the official crowd was, but we must have been outnumbered 4-1, something like that, at least 4-1. And the noise was all from Wednesday fans, and that continued pretty much throughout the game. And eventually, after a few minutes, the Wednesday fans started singing to the Forest fans, "You've only come to see Semedo." And they had. They looked down at us, 2,000 Semedos stood in away end, right, and they wanted to be part of that. I'm sure they were all crawling in round back trying to be part of it, because it was just fantastic to be there and be part of it. Probably one of the best bits of noise and atmosphere that we've had in quite a while at an away game, and it was fantastic to be part of it.
I don't know whether by luck or by judgment, but what an inspired decision to have it for that specific match. Will it be in Forest, not a massive long journey that people have to budget 4 hours for, and a big away contingent as well. Not one of these grounds where you get 900 tickets or 1,100 tickets or whatever. It really felt like something special, like it was. It was almost like the passion of a Sheffield derby, but without any of the kind of fear and loathing of it all. It were a real carnival atmosphere. It was fantastic, a display of what we do as fans when we're away, and that kind of togetherness that we haven't really felt since last season, or certainly since Derby, the first away game of this season, where you kind of go and you take over a place, and it's a carnival atmosphere, and everyone's positive for all the right reasons. It was magical. Like you say, the noise, and when you're an away fan, and we're very noisy as away fans. I think we're blessed in that respect. But normally when the home fans are singing, even if you can't hear them because we're singing so loud, we're drowning them out to our own ears. But you knew for a fact that even if you were a Forest fan sat in the home end there, that's all you could hear. You could only hear the away fans singing. And, I'm sure it stuck in their craw a little bit, but it must have been an impressive sight if they admitted to themselves.
Yeah, it were all good stuff, wasn't it? In fact, Reader Johnson were there. I don't know if you saw him. He just stood to our right in with Wednesday fans, and he were absolutely loving it. I mean, he seems to always have a big beaming smile on him anyway, doesn't he? But this, because of all the noise and the atmosphere, he was loving it. And even when we asked him to give us a song,
He give us a song.
yeah, which he did. Well, he didn't really give us a song, did he? He just started moving his arms up and down and doing bouncing, which everybody took up.
Well, I'm jealous I wasn't there. To be fair, it was one of those decisions where I went down and volunteered to work and thought, oh, I should have gone to that thing. You know what I mean? It's one of those days. So
have you before you go, have you seen Raider Johnson's lady?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Is that chick that is, well, quite literally hotter than the sun?
She is absolutely stunning. She was there with him. I thought, if you've seen her, then you must be tweeting her, because I know what you like with these.
I was thinking, no wonder he has such a smile on his face.
Yeah.
Even if he was a rubbish footballer, then, you know, he has no reason to be sad, because that, you know, wow, what an unbelievable lady, and well done, Reader.
Yeah,
It's weird. It's weird that, isn't it? An average-looking footballer getting a hot chick. That never happens. Does it?
What first attracted you to extremely well-paid footballers?
Do you have problems with your nipples? Are they sore, itchy, inflamed, or just plain crusty? Don't worry, ladies and gents, the Wednesday Week podcast has got just the thing for you. Beastie's Nipple Ointment. That's right, ladies and gents, Beastie's Nipple Ointment made from Beastie's very own special recipe. Just rub it on there, and soon enough you'll have the very best nipples on your street too. Beastie's Nipple Ointment from the Wednesday Week. Beastie's Nipple Ointment is not a real product, and anybody that thinks so is an absolute numpty.
Right. So anyway, I've lost where I was. Right, Nottingham Forest. It was our young loanee's last game. It transpired after today's events. Ross Barkley, or Niles Barkley, as Beastie calls him on his tweets. Oh, by the way, Beastie, before I move on, actually, this has got to be one of the best spelt tweeting performances you've done. It wasn't 100% right, don't get me wrong, but you must be really concentrating on this one, because what was it, the Aussie Owl Pie game, or the Lord Hillsborough drinking game, of every time Beastie puts out a misspelt tweet, Aussie has a pie, or Lord H has a drink. I can't imagine how much scotch got drank in Lord H's house a couple of weeks ago, but I think he finished the game relatively sober after Saturday's performance. So kudos on that one, Beast.
Cheers.
I was looking at the tweets on the way back, and I think Beastie was 100% spelling correct until about the 80th minute or something. So, you know, unbelievable stuff going on there. I don't know what I thought you'd maybe handed it over to your lass to say, because it was very unlike you.
So, Ross Barkley, are we going to miss him? Chris Lyons is due back very soon. He's been playing a few developmental squad games. Are we going to miss Ross?
Well, I think it's strange, really, that his last game for us wasn't exactly one of his best games. I thought he didn't have enough of a Saint game against Forest, and I would have liked him to have done that, and that would have been an even better send-off for him. But we are going to miss him. I've right enjoyed watching him play. I think he's a smashing player. I think he's absolutely got bags of potential, and I'm absolutely positive that we will be hearing more about him in the future, whether that's just as a top Premier League player or as an England player, I don't know, but he is a very, very good footballer, and thanks for all he's done for us, and I just wish him well, whatever happens to him.
Yeah, I've got to echo those sentiments, Beastie. He's a class act, and he hasn't single-handedly, won games for us. He hasn't been part of a winning team at Hillsborough, by and large. But what a classy player, and you can see that kid's going to fly. So yeah, it's going to hurt us. Of course, we don't want to see him go. We don't want to lose a player with those qualities and that calibre. It's going to be interesting to see how we plug that gap. If Chris Lyons is fit and ready to go. I know he wasn't even named on the bench, was he, on Saturday? But he seems to think that he's ready to go. So, what a great fillip it would be for the team if Chris Lyons came in, stepping up that level, and he showed that he could at least slot in and replace a Ross Barkley. So, yeah, I'm positive about it, but at the same time, objectively, looking at it, you can't think that's not going to be a miss for us.
Yeah, I also need to bring up as well. Fresh off the back of his international duty once again, I don't know how you pronounce it, Nejic Pecnic, shall we go with?
Nick. It's simple.
Sorry, say that again.
Nick Picnic. Not messing around with any of these. I know you're a citizen of the world, but these foreign translations. We don't need Nick or whatever.
Look,
no, just Nick Picnic, it'll do.
Look, get back to football names, right? They're called Boffers, Barkers, and Peckers.
There you go.
Yes. Anyway, Tubes Off Soccer AM.
Yeah.
I tell you one thing that stuck out to me, and that was every time I see him play. He reminds me a lot of Reggie Blinker, and I tell you for why.
Oh yeah, they're like bookends. You can't tell them apart.
I know, they're like twins, don't they? It's more the fact that there's that. Etienne Asias was a similar sort of player. There's a lot of flick and a lot of movement, a lot of deft touches, a lot of I'm going to.
You're talking about hair now, aren't you?
I'm just about flicking hair now, yeah. But there's never any end product. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of huffing and puffing, but there's never anything that actually goes, no, that was all right, that. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of, hey, I'm going to take this little flick here, I'm going to take this little touch. Exciting to watch, but bugger all actually comes from it.
Peckers is one of them players that I really, really want to love. Every now and again he'll do something, and you think, why aren't you doing more of that? You know, you don't pitch for 60 odd minutes, and the other 59, you're absolute garbage. Right? And against Forest, for the time that he were on, he was pretty much a passenger. And don't get me wrong, I had a day of frustrations on Saturday, but I found him very, very frustrating during that game. I really, really want to love him, but unfortunately, before long, he's getting it back at Van with Liera.
He's one of those players who, it's frustrating when you see in the week that he scored 2 at international level. You know, who were they against? Azerbaijan or someone like that? No, Macedonia, wasn't it? Now, you can't tell me that Macedonian national team are any worse than at least a good championship team. So, if he can do it at that level, whatever he's doing, he needs to replicate that for us. You know, he's been signed as an international player. You've got to think he's got something to offer. But like you say, there's a couple of really nice moments, and then there's no end product, and you end up with him as a passenger. And right now, we need the exact opposite of that, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we need somebody pulling some strings.
Well, hopefully that's going to be Chris Lyons, isn't it, when he comes back in?
Well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. He's got rid of that silly bloody moustache he's got, and then he can then he can move on. And I'm sorry, Chris, you are losing it. You may as well just shave it off, mate. And harsh words. So we're now at that point of the season. We're just before Christmas. People always use Christmas as a benchmark before we about where you are, about what sort of season it's going to finish. We're just outside relegation. Are we in a relegation dogfight, or are we still holding the hope that we're going to, as daft it sounds, holding the hope that we're going to be a mid-table team and not in a relegation dogfight? Have we got any predictions for Sheffield Wednesday for the next, let's say, 3 or 4 weeks about where we're going to be and where we hope to be?
Go on then, Eddie.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's never a time when it's November. You're not in a relegation dogfight. There's so much more football to be played, and especially as we talked about this division, there are teams who can look dead and buried at Christmas, and by the end of the season, they're charging and they're scooting into the playoffs and even getting promoted. Think of Palace a few years back. But you'd be a mug to think that we don't have a long, hard struggle ahead. Now, the points tell their own story. If we play for another half a season and pick up the same number of points, then yeah, that'll be a relegation dogfight. But I don't think that you are in that scrappy, backs to the wall, desperately trying to pick up more points than the teams around you until at least kind of February. So no, there's nothing. Because as soon as you mention the word dogfight and you mention the word relegation, then suddenly it is that sort of, oh God, scrappy 1-0ers, throw them forward, do whatever you can just to get points on the board. And that will be the absolute worst thing for us to do right now. We're still in a position where we can build a team that can compete for the rest of the season.
Right, let's have a look at fixtures then, between now and New Year. Because, to me, there looks to be plenty of points here for Wednesday. And you tell me what you think. We've got Leicester and Watford at home to start with, and then through December, right, we've got Cardiff away, Bristol City at home, Barnsley away, Charlton at home, Bolton away on Boxing Day, and then Huddersfield away on New Year's Eve with, not on New Year's Eve, on 29th of December, with Burnley on New Year's Day. Now, most of them, barring 2, right, there's only 2 that I think that look a little bit tricky. The rest, I'm really hopeful that we can take at least a draw from every one of the other games, and I'd be looking at quite a few wins out of them. What do you reckon?
I absolutely agree with you, Beast. There, I mean, Cardiff away, that's going to be an ask, isn't it? You know, I don't care how well you're playing. Cardiff away is a big ask. And Huddersfield away, I know we did well there last season, and arguably they were playing, you know, as well as us, if not better last season. You know, certainly they're doing well and then dropping back and doing well and dropping back. So that one could come down to, you know, what sort of form they're in, etc. But you look at the rest of them, you know, they're not difficult away games as far as. At this level, you know, you've got to be looking at the likes of Dingles away, Bolton away. I wasn't impressed with Bolton. And those home matches are definitely must-wins. Should wins and probably must-wins, because you look at that December. You know, we could be waking up on January the 2nd and talking about a very different Sheffield Wednesday. I really hope that Dave Jones has got the players keyed in to that idea that this is a period of the season that can really make or break what's going to happen in the spring. And if we go into that kind of January and onwards with a good number of points under our belt, and we've climbed out of the immediate danger, then we're going to be in a very different place than if we don't pick up the points now. And like I've said, we get into that relegation type scrap where we have to fight tooth and nail for every point. So yeah, I'm optimistic looking at that. It all starts with Leicester on Saturday, though. That's a team who are going to be coming off a massive win. You know, 6-0. I know you're playing against a team in disarray to a great extent, but even so, they'll have their tails up, and they'll be thinking, well, look, if we can do that to Ipswich, we can do 6 past Ipswich, we can certainly do, you know, 3 against Sheffield Wednesday. So it's all going to start from the back, shutting them up, keeping Ben Marshall quiet, and you know, taking 3 points, whichever way it comes. And then we build from there. Watford should be a win. Bristol City should be a win. Charlton should be a win. And then those away games, let's look at a point from each one. And we're looking at a very different Sheffield Wednesday and a very different championship table, aren't we?
Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'll be really disappointed if we get thraped by Leicester. I know, I take on board what you said, and I know that they are playing pretty well at the minute, and I know that they're stuck 6 past Ipswich, but I'll be so disappointed if we ship a load of goals against them at home. Would you take a draw against them now?
I don't know. For all I've said, that I'm fearful that they will be thinking that they can come and score goals against us. I think that we can stop them. No, I wouldn't take a point right now. I'd take a scrap. I'd take a clean sheet right now. I'll give you that. I'll take a clean sheet right now. And if we don't score, then it's on us. And we've talked about our problems with scoring goals. But a clean sheet and a scrappy 3 points, I'd bite your hand off right now.
I think I'd take a point as long as we played well and looked like we could have won, if that makes sense. Like if we, I said no, sod it, I want to win them.
So it took a long time to think about that, then, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I thought I don't want to rush into anything. Don't want to get close to anything rash here, Dan. Have a think about it. Yeah, that's what I did. So Leicester, let's see if we can get some predictions in there from you chaps before we wrap it up. What do you reckon, Beast?
Well, I'm hopeful. I am really, really hopeful. It's a bit like when we played Leeds and everybody was saying, "Oh, we're going to get a right toweling off Leeds." I just fancy us. But then again, as my young'un says, I always think we're going to win. Right? It don't matter who we're playing against. It don't matter what sort of form we're in. I'm always optimistic, and I always think we're going to win. But let's say, like Eddie's just suggested there, let's say a 1-0 win for Wednesday.
And what about you, Ed?
I can't look much further than that. You know, I'm exactly the same as you, Beastie. It doesn't matter how badly we're playing. I always think, well, the turnaround starts here. You know, I'm super confident and super positive at 3 o'clock every Saturday afternoon. I don't think Leicester are as good as that 6-0 might suggest. But equally, I think that's our hardest home game between, you know, now and far into January. So, no, I think we're going to do it. And I think we might surprise everyone. We might surprise ourselves and actually find a bit of touch in front of goal. So, I'm going to say 2-1.
Ooh. Shout. I think that Martin Taylor seems like the type of person. Like I said, he was interviewed last week, and he said that he's disappointed with the way Sheffield Wednesday career started, and I think he's going to have a big. It seems like that type of guy that's annoyed. He's annoyed himself, and he's got a point to prove. So I'll take a clean sheet. If it's a 0-0 clean sheet, I'll be all right with that. But I think I might fall down the side of Beastie on this one. I think a 1-0. Maybe even sneak a 2-0 after 10 minutes, something like that. But I'm like you, Per. I'm eternally optimistic.
Good. Martin Taylor goal in front of Cop, 94th minute.
Yeah, we'll take that. Right then, chaps. Any other business? Did we have any fallout from the charity events that were done over the last week?
No, a few thanks from the Slug Jugglers. No, everything seems to be going well in Movember for those that are doing it. The money's going up for all of them, which is good.
Great news.
That's it. Yeah, I've got nothing else.
All right then.
Nothing else at all.
Well, big good luck once again, as we do every week, to Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday against Leicester City. That's at Hillsborough. We'll be wearing our home shirts. I feel like when I do that, I'm giving out details to an illegal rave. Do you know what I mean? It's this weekend, chaps. And we'll see you at 3:00. Beastie, to get hold of you on Twitter, it is.
Yeah, you can get hold of me at RaidersLovely_lady. If you want to send me photos of yourself, that's fine. In fact, let's make that hashtag #RaidersLovelyLady.
Yeah, that can be the hashtag for this week, RaidersLovelyLady. If you take pictures of random women around the week, and if you're in town on Friday night, take a picture of a hot chick, and just hashtag RaidersLovelyLady.
Or if you're a young, upwardly mobile go-getter who's doing a bit of slug juggling, you stick it on there, and you never know. RaidersLovelyLady. They call you. Failing that, you can get in touch with me at Beastie_ on Twitter or at owlsalive.com.
Cool beans. What about you, Ed?
As always, I'm on Twitter at Sausage Arms. I will not be spending any time looking at pictures of Reader's Lovely Lady, and I say that despite the fact that my wife is glaring at me while we. Yes, no, I will be reading entirely male and sports-centric websites, and definitely not looking at anything specialist at all this week whatsoever, or any other week.
So if you need any over there, David himself.
There's a chance here, a great save. Turner from McClare. A terrific goal by Sheridan.
Rexman against Jones. Get in. You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble with saving that.
Thanks a lot once again for listening to us, folks, and we'll see you next week.